Welcome back. I'm going to try to solve some more chess puzzles today. Hopefully, it won't be too embarrassing this time. But first, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel. I have over 60 subscribers now, which I know is nothing compared to famous people, but for me, that's quite a few. I finally passed my daughter, so I won that contest temporarily. And also, thank you to those of you who have sent me private messages on chess.com or Lichess encouraging me with this channel or saying that you relate or that this has helped you in some way or just encouraging me in general. I really appreciate that. And some days when I'm not having the best chess day, those messages really make a difference. Again, we're going to do our best here and see what we can come up with. What's going to happen after that? I don't know. I don't have a check. I mean, technically I have a check, but that's not a good check. And you know what would be really cool is if there was some way to protect this bishop right here. Because I noticed these two are on the same diagonal. But you know what? That wouldn't matter. They could just push a pawn to stop that. So, what do I have? This knight is guarded by the queen, so I can't just pick it up. My rooks don't have much here. I guess I could put a rook there to threaten the queen, but that's just a one-move threat. Also, once the queen moves out of the way, I would be in danger of this fork. But just in case I did that, where would the queen go? It would want to keep defending the knight, I think. So it wouldn't go here because my bishop would hit it. And it wouldn't go here because my rook would hit it. So maybe that is the best move. Because once the queen then has to move off this diagonal, no, it could just go back. The queen could just go back and still be defending the knight. Okay. So maybe that's not the best idea, because my initial plan was to make the queen move and then I could take the knight. But that's clearly not it. But if it did go back, I know I failed a few of these by not following some of these possibilities through to completion. If it did go back, what do I have then? Is my question. I couldn't still threaten it with the bishop because then it could just take the bishop. Because that square still would not be protected. This pawn is guarded by the knight because knights can move backward. And that doesn't open up anything for me. If the knight wasn't there, I would have a nice check here. But that would be a bad way to get the knight to move, because then the knight would just take my rook and my queen. You know what, man? I really don't like these L-shaped arrows on these knights. I much prefer the Lichess arrows, which are diagonal. They point diagonally toward this. Oh, wow. Yeah, you can't even draw an... Yeah, the Lichess arrows are just better. Because this one overlapped the other arrows when I did that. Because it went down this line instead of making a new line over here. Bad chess.com. Make your arrows better. It should just be a diagonal line from one square to the next. It doesn't have to go up and over because it just gets in the way of other lines. Okay. I haven't come up with anything here. Wait. I just realized if I did that and the knight took, I could then take the knight. I wouldn't have to do what I was, but it wouldn't be check still, and I would be down a rook for a knight and a pawn. And right now in this game, I'm down pawns. I'm down 2 pawns. So I don't need to go down another pawn and a major piece. I mean, what is it? This is just... Should I start this video over? That's 5 minutes. I'm going to fail this puzzle. I've got to do something. Really? What is it? If I do this, doesn't the queen just picks it up and is still guarding the knight? And I could push a pawn to threaten it, but it's just going to move over someplace and still be guarding the knight, or go back to where it was. So that's not it. In a game right here, I think I would push this pawn, hoping to get it 1 forward, and then that would be protected by the rook. That's one thing that I would think of, but I'm not going to try that here. Also not going to bring this rook to threaten the queen, because then the knight can go here protected. Wait, no, the queen would move first, and then the queen would probably go here. I'm going to try this first rook thing I thought of. Oh, that was it. And they decided to give up the queen, knowing that they're about to get another queen here and take out our rook. Huh. So do I take the queen? I think I take the queen. Okay, and then I take that queen too, right? When I take that queen, it's going to take my rook. And then I'm going to take the knight. Because I have to take the queen right now. It's forced. Okay. Wow. That took way too long. I am so sorry about that. Once it takes my rook and I take the knight, I'll have a queen and a bishop against 2 rooks. So I guess that's better. I don't know. It says theme is passed pawns. I guess that was a passed pawn down there. I will check that. Promotion, yes. Rook's on 7th. I guess that's technically on the 7th. Okay. Well, I got it right, but I'm not sure I understand exactly what happened. Here, I'm down a piece. My opponent has an extra minor piece, because we both have 2 rooks and a queen, and I have a knight, and they have 2 bishops. So there's got to be something powerful here. I'm wondering if it isn't check with the knight. Because I do have, I mean, this is a fairly safe check here with the queen. So if I did the queen check first, the king just comes in here, right? And then I don't have a good follow-up because I don't have a bishop. You know, in an actual game here, I would probably move my rook at this point because it's being hit. So, but I know it's a puzzle and it's not just a defensive move. I'm down a piece, so I need to do something. But my initial idea was queen check, but then the king moves out of the way and I don't have a good follow-up because the follow-up checks across here, the king could just capture the queen. The follow-up check here, the king could just capture the queen. And the follow-up check here, the queen would just capture my queen. Or the bishop. So I don't think the queen check is the best first check. And my idea was to move the knight here first, which is a check. And if the king moved toward my knight, then I would follow with the queen. Maybe. But the king could still move up here. And then I would get the rook. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. You saw that, right? I was trying to move the knight here. Holy cow, maybe I do need to delete this video. I was trying to move the knight to a place knights don't go. Maybe this coffee isn't strong enough. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate, but it wasn't working out really well anyway. Back to the queen check idea, which that leaves only one legal move, the king here. I do have a follow-up check, but 3 enemy pieces hit that square, so that wouldn't be it. So, check, king moves to g7. I don't have a follow-up. I just don't. Because again, the king guards all these squares across here and this one. So I couldn't move my queen to check again. And no other piece could check again other than the aforementioned foolish knight move. But that's my only check is queen to d8. Right? There's no other piece that can check right now. I don't have any hidden secret knights or anything. I don't, if I had a secret knight right here, it would be nice. I'd just move it in there and that would be check. But I don't. And my rook is hanging. So now I've spent 6 minutes on this puzzle and I still have no idea what the answer is. Was it the simple defensive move to get my... What happens then? Let's say I do that. What does black do? They just move the bishop here? Or here? Or here? Or here? Or here? Or here. Those are all safe squares for the bishop. Safe for the time being. So that can't possibly be it. Is there something else? Something that I'm missing. Check on d8 with my queen. King moves up here. I could go here, which would threaten another check, but that wouldn't even be threatening mate because the king could just come out. Well, I paused my recording and I looked at this for a few more minutes. I really couldn't come up with anything. Another possibility that I came up with was maybe trying to threaten the queen here with the rook. It would be guarded by the knight. And there would only be so many squares it could go. Because if it went back, the knight covers that. The pawn covers that. The knight covers that. A different pawn covers this. The rook would cover this square. The queen covers this square, as does the king. The queen covers this one and this one. and this one, and my rook and queen cover this one, but so does their bishop and rook. And my rook would be covering all of these squares, but that still leaves some safe stuff. Like here it would be guarded by its own bishop, here it would be guarded by its own rook and not under threat, and those two are safe. So that's why I discounted that. Even though my pieces cover a lot of the squares around the queen, it would just retreat along this diagonal somewhere. I don't know how far it would go. I assume maybe right here, because then it could protect this bishop against future threats. But if it went there, that would be guarding the square back here I was talking about checking on. So threatening the queen, it seems to be just a little less powerful than my original plan of threatening the king. Because just like the king can move out of the way, the queen can move out of the way. And it might just want to go right here. Because as I've said, I'm down a piece. And if it went right there, I wouldn't want to trade queens, because I would still be down a piece and my rook would still be under threat. But maybe if I threatened there and it went back, I could come across and continue to threaten it. But then no, because then it could come down. This square would then be safe, right? And still the other diagonals, the other squares on the diagonal would still be safe for it. So I don't think that's it either. But because I've spent so much time on it, I'm going to go for the check. Okay, that was it. I wasted all that time and the check was the answer. But now there has to be a follow-up. And as you saw, I couldn't find a follow-up. I did briefly consider a queen sacrifice being powerful somehow. That, like, if I sacrificed my queen in the corner down here, then I could follow up with a check, but then that's it. The king just comes back and threatens my knight, and I don't have a queen anymore. So I don't think a queen sacrifices it. I've previously discussed this knight move, which I don't think is great. Rook hits it, queen hits it, pawn hits it. Bishop. Now I see the bishop too. 4 pieces cover that square. Now if the bishop took it, like if I checked here and the bishop took, then I would pick up a rook. But then they would go up and exchange here. So I don't think it's that, because it doesn't have to be the bishop. The bishop can stay pinned. It could be the rook, doubling up with their queen. And I don't gain anything. Because, like, if the pawn moved, that might open up something like a follow-up check here. But I don't think, but the pawn doesn't have to take it, is my point. The pawn doesn't have to take here. However, since I don't think I have a safe follow-up check on any of those squares with my knight or queen, I have to look back at what moving my queen did for my position. One thing moving my queen did for my position is it got from in between the 2 rooks. So now the 2 rooks are joined together. So maybe it's time to threaten the queen with them? Because earlier my queen was in the mix, and now it's not necessarily in the mix. But then, if that's the case, then the question is, should it be this rook? Which does help, does hit that square, but I don't think that helps, because there's still just too much on it. If it's this one, can't the queen can just go there? Well, not there, because my queen guards that. But again, it has all these squares on the diagonal to go to, not to mention here and here on the horizontal. And if my rook's moved over, at least, my rook would be guarding this whole thing, and my knight still guards that square. But the queen has plenty of places to go. If it's the other rook, does that change anything? It means my rooks would be cutting off all of these 2 files. But the queen could just sidestep. Nope. Again, my queen covers that whole file. Okay. So if it's this rook, I have pieces covering all 3 of these files. So the queen's movement would be limited here and here. My king would cover that square, rooks cover that square, rooks would cover that square. But it would still leave the queen here, 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 and here. So moving the A rook out of danger and threatening the queen at the same time looks good, but then the queen just goes to one of those places. But I feel like I have to try it because my rook is currently in danger of being lost for a bishop. So that makes sense to me, if for no other reason than I can't find anything else. All that's protected. That square is protected. Moving my queen here does nothing. The king guards all those squares. We've already discussed how many pieces guard this pawn. I can't move my queen here because of the bishop, here because of the rook, here because of the pawn, here because of the bishop and the queen, here because of the queen, here because of the queen. So I'm pretty sure it's not a queen move. That's guarded by the rook. That's not guarded by anything, but really, what good would it do me to put my queen there? So I think it's got to be this rook move. It was not. What was it? It was a queen move. Well, I don't see where, except here, but what good would my queen do there? And then they could just take my rook with their bishop. I'm going to click it again and see where the arrow goes. Wait, it was there? It was there. Why didn't they just take the bishop? What was I wasn't threatening anything. Okay, I was threatening this. Okay, but that wouldn't even mate. That's not even a threat. The king just gets out of the way again. Oh, but then I would go here, and that would be mate. Okay, so I'm threatening mate, is what that's telling me. Okay, that's why it didn't take my rook. So I should have moved my queen here to threaten checkmate there. But now the rook has come after my queen. I've already failed this puzzle. I don't know why I'm still trying to solve it. Now what? Move it here to threaten the rook. Because I only have so many safe squares now. None of which are really great for me. Oh, I can take the rook. Why do I keep missing that I can take rooks? I don't understand. I'm going to hit the analysis button because I really don't understand that. Okay, here I couldn't think of anything else, so I did that, and it turned out to be the best move. And now king g7 is the only move. I got that. But now it says to go queen e7 to threaten mate. Okay. And the computer says the best move for black is to go here and give up their queen for free. But you see that the evaluation isn't even saying it's found mate yet. It's saying if the queen goes here, then I have mate. But if the queen goes here, it says 9.9 plus 2, 8. That's the best move. And then I have to take it. And then the best move is e5. And my best move is to take it. And then the best move is bishop to e6. No, it's changed its mind. Bishop to f5. e6, f5. Make up your mind. But doesn't that block the rook from guarding this square? It says I wouldn't do that. Oh, it says now I can do this. Would be my best move. And now it's found mate in this sequence. My goodness. Okay, but none of that happened because when I moved my queen here, they did the computer did the second best move, which was this, which just gives up a rook, which I realized because I can't go forward here, so I took the rook eventually. And now it says the best move is bishop to d7, which is what the computer did. And I took it, and that was the solution to the puzzle. Okay. Wow. Well, I'm 2 points lower than where I started from, so I hope you're happy. Oh, goodness. What do I have here? Queen's threatening mate. No, not really. It's guarded. But if I do something silly like that, then that's checkmate. After an ineffectual block. So I have to keep an eye on that. The queen wants to come here. However, now just bear with me here. The king can't move right now because my knight guards this square and this square. And my pawn, my d4 pawn, guards these two squares. And the other squares have the black's own pieces on them. So that king can't move. So, hypothesis, rook to b6 check. King can't move. What does it do to get out of that check? If it blocks with the knight, I can check again, and that's guarded by my knight. Then the king could escape here, but I can check with this rook. Oh no, the king can't escape there because my queen covers it. Okay, so rook to b6 check. The rook 1 to b6 check. If they block with the knight, I take it, and that's checkmate. If they block with the pawn, I move my rook here. No, the bishop can take it. No. I was going to say, if they took with the pawn, I would have a follow-up check. The king would have to go there. It doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as good as I first thought. Okay. Yeah, if I put it here, it would take with the pawn. But that would get the pawn out of the way of the rook hitting this, and then I would have this check. Okay. So, again, rook 1 to b6 check. If the knight blocks, I take it, and it's mate. Okay. Rook to b6 check. If the pawn blocks, it gets out of the way here. I take the knight with my queen, and I think that's mate. If the pawn takes my rook on b6, I take the knight with my queen, and that's mate. So I think I have to risk this whole situation down here. Okay, it took. I think this is checkmate. Okay. Wow. So I got one right, got one wrong, and got one right, ending up 3 points ahead of where I started. It's progress. Thank you for watching.